The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the Friday edition of the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Now, if you'd like to send us an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And if you want to find out more about the X Zone, we're all over the internet on our social media, X Zone Radio TV. And of course, we're on channel 54 of Simul TV, 724 365 on the X Zone TV channel. And we're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and as I was saying, Simul TV. Before we get to our guest of this hour, Robert Lee Camp, I would just like to mention a few things about our guest last night, Joshua Shapiro. Well, I can't even say Joshua Shapiro, because even though he wanted you, the listeners, to believe what he was saying about the different conspiracies that he believed in, he forgot to mention his real name was Richard Lawrence Shapiro, not Joshua Shapiro. And when he found out that we knew, he kind of backed down. And we're going to have him back on to explain why he said what he said, and to see if he could prove anything that he said, because we had our research department pull down every statement he made last night, and it's going to be one heck of a great show. All right, X Zone Nation, my first guest tonight is Robert Lee Camp. We're going to be talking about cards, astrology, the science of the cards, and joining me now from North Carolina is Robert Lee Camp. And Robert, welcome back to the X Zone. Great seeing you again.
Thanks, Rob. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
For the listeners who haven't had the opportunity of hearing you on the show before, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've always been sort of interested in self-development and spiritual things, and that led to me moving into a yoga ashram when I was 23. I lived there for 10 years, and while I was there, I got introduced to astrology. And I never even thought about astrology, but when I heard about it, for some reason, I was just smitten with it. I just had to know more. And so I immediately went out to a bookstore and bought the first book I could find and just started studying it. And I just had this really fascination with it. And I never thought I would be an astrologer. So then I ended up I started reading people as a fun thing. And then I started doing readings for money as a part-time thing. And then around a few years later, somebody introduced me to this other book called Sacred Symbols of the Ancients, which is all about the science of the cards. And I never knew the cards had anything going on. But she said, here, look up your card and read about it. So I looked up my birthday in the back of the book, and it turns out I'm a Queen of Diamonds. And so I read this chapter on my card, the Queen of Diamonds, and I was stunned at how accurate it was. It wasn't flattering either. She was she never, her book is some cards really get chewed on a lot, and mine was one of them. But, and it fascinated me so much because there were 8 birthdays of the year that had my same card, first of all. And it didn't matter what year you were born or where you were born or what time you were born. So, but it was so accurate. I knew that there was something to it. And that led to me studying and learning. And then finally, I realized this was my life's work. And that's how I got started. I've been doing this for 30 years.
How does it work?
Well, it's fascinating. You know, the common deck of cards, we don't think about it at all, like the regular playing cards. I'm not talking about tarot cards. That's a whole nother story. But our regular deck of playing cards is an exact symbolic replica of our Earth's cycles. Everything about it mathematically is lined with the calendar. you take, like, there's 52 cards. We know that 52
Right.
weeks. That sounds
Yeah.
easy. 4 suits, 4 seasons, 2 colors, day and night. But if you take all the numbers on the card, the ace being a 1, 2, up to jack is 11, queen is 12, king is 13, add up all the cards in a deck, it comes to 365. and
Fascinating.
and there's 13 cards in each suit, and there's 13 full moons every year. The word
Right.
month comes from the word moon. We really should have 13 months in a year. That would be more in alignment. But here we are. The system has changed. So this system has been around, but nobody knew what it was about. They just thought, the gypsies had them, and I mean, every ancient civilization claims to have invented the cards. So the first book ever written about what was really behind the cards was in 1895. And he said these cards came from way before, like from Atlantis, he said. Now, nobody can prove that, but that's what he said. And he was the one that first introduced this, like made it public to the world. He said it had been kept private for centuries because there was so much ignorance in the world. And you would have been killed for doing it, for a long time. So it just fascinated me. And even in my first class that I took with my first teacher, when I got to be able to read the cards that were representing what's going on in my life right now, it talked about something that had just happened. It blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe this. I can't believe that it it was saying what it had just happened to me. And that kind of got me hooked, but I still didn't believe in it. I kept testing it for about a year, and then it just proved to be so amazing. It's like a book. I call it the book of destiny, because all your cards for your whole life are already laid out at your birth based on the mathematical formulas and your birthday. So we have yearly spreads. Every year of your life, you have a spread of cards. There's really like 16 or 17 main cards that tell you what's going on every 52 days of the year. And then there's cards that influence the entire year, and they tell you what's the theme of the year and so forth. So
Right.
you can check this system out. You can go back in your past. Say, oh, look, I got married this year. Let me go see if it has those cards in it. Or I moved, or I lost my job, or there was a death in the family. And you're going to find out that it's got the information in there.
And what kind of feedback do you get from the people that you do reading for when they see that you're using just an ordinary deck instead of the traditional tarot cards that card
Yeah.
readers usually use?
Yeah. I actually don't even use the deck of cards at all, because it's all done mathematically. And I've actually created software that calculated all the spreads and laid them all out. So I didn't have to. The original way you do it is complex enough that I was making mistakes in calculating them. So I just had a computer do it. And the readings I give people are a combination of astrology and the cards, and I get amazingly great feedback. I have clients coming back over and over again. I've done thousands of readings in the last 30 years.
You were telling me before we went to air that you actually did a reading for the wife of Robin Williams.
Yes. Yeah, I did, because my wife at the time was a yoga teacher, and she was the yoga teacher of Robin Williams' wife and a lot of other, like Woody Harrelson and
Right.
Glenn Close. I did a reading for Woody Harrelson also, and Glenn Close and a few other people. When I was living there, I was living in LA when I first started this, like 25 years ago.
What is the inspiration? I had to figure out how to say this the right way. What was the inspiration for people, or the inspiration for people now, to get their cards read in the 21st century?
I don't know. I think I like it when I like when a client comes to me and they got some very serious questions, like they really want to know, like, what's going on in their life, why their life is the way it is. Because we all live through certain patterns. So there's a card that rules every day of the year, and the day you're born is ruled by a card, and that card is like your astrology chart. It really tells your traits, the traits that you have, both positive and negative. What I was speaking to you a little bit about the 7 of clubs before we
Yeah.
started, and so forth. And people want to know. They want to know what's going on. They want to know why their life is the way it is. They want to know if they can change it, make it better. And this information can help them. It can really get to the heart of the matter. Like, it's kind of like I sort of mix a little I mix a little psychology in there. I have a little bit of psychological approach, because with astrology and the cards, I can tell people like what their fears are, like what stops them from getting what they want, or whatever, where their indecision is, or whatever it is, you know. There's a lot of variations, of course. There's 52 cards and lots of different ways it can express.
What about the war in Ukraine? Talk to me about that, because once again, we were chatting before the air. And
well, what I thought was really interesting was, okay, so let's talk about Putin real quick. Putin is a 2 of diamonds, and he is an 8 of clubs. Now, this 8 of clubs is one of these 3 cards in the deck we call fixed. So, and it's fixed in the mind. Clubs are the mind. You're a 7 of clubs. He's an 8 of clubs. Okay. So, first of all, the 2 of diamonds is very insecure. They're emotionally very insecure, always afraid of everything, but they're super, super smart. And the 8 of clubs, like once he gets, like he's on this thing, he's not going to stop. The 8 is fixed. It will not change for hardly anything. So we can sort of bet that Putin is going to just keep going. I mean, he's just going to keep going. This is just from the card point of view. You understand? Now, it turns out that Zelensky is also a 2 of diamonds. So interesting. And Jinping is also a 2 of diamonds. All 3 of these guys are 2 of diamonds. So what's cool about that, I think, is that Zelensky knows what Putin's going to do, and he knows what he's capable of, because he's the same card. There's a different birthday, but he's the same card. And, you know, he knows not to trust Putin, because 2 of diamonds, many of them have an issue with honesty. I mean, Putin is just like the world's most consummate liar in the whole world. I mean, it's just, but all 2 of diamonds have that potential. And Zelensky doesn't have such a great reputation either before this war started.
That's true.
I heard he was sort of like a tyrant and a dictator in his own right. So, you know, but we're all behind him now, and he knows all of Putin's tricks. That's kind of cool, you know. Then
it's also kind of scary.
It's scary, but I mean, it definitely gives him an edge with dealing with Putin. And,
all right, Robert, we've got to take a break. Please stand by. X-Zone Nation. Our guest this hour is Robert Lee Camp, and if you'd like more information about Robert, visit his website, 7, that's the number 7, thunders.com, and we'll both be back after this short break. Don't go away. Do you enjoy paranormal, sci-fi romance, yet find yourself tired of the same old themes and storylines? Then you won't want to miss Kahira O'Donnell's latest exciting release, To Taste You Again. Alien Lord Kane McKean knew the moment that his destined mate was born. He watched from afar, waiting for her to grow from child to woman. However, before she was old enough, she was stolen from her home world by flesh pirates. Kane searched 10 long years to find her held in a suspension chamber, a 10-year-old girl in a woman's body. He rescued her and swore to give her time to grow up, but with his very life depending upon winning her as a mate, has he waited too long? Get your copy today. To Taste You Again by Kahira O'Donnell is now available on Amazon or KahiraO'Donnell.com. And welcome back, everyone. Before we get back to Robert, you know, I'm not going to even use that joke. I'm not even going to ask him if he's playing with a full deck, because I know he is. Sorry, Robert. Couldn't help it.
Okay,
you know,
man.
You know me, 7 of clubs.
Let's have a little fun, you know. Why not?
Sure. Before we get back to the cards, because I do want to hear more about the Ukraine conflict or war. A couple of notices. First of all, tonight, in the next hour, we were supposed to have Tolly Birkin, but Tolly could not make it due to an urgent family matter. So Kevin Randall is going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about cattle mutilation, as well as UFOs, Roswell, and the such. Kevin is the host of A Different Perspective right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. His website is kevinrandall.blogspot.com. Also, for those of you out there who take a serious look at how the world is evolving and what is new in the world and how today reflects yesterday, Wilde Wiaka takes our listeners on a tour of her show Mission Evolution. I can't believe I did that. That'll teach me to watch TV before the show. Mission Evolution, and her website is www.missionevolution.org. All right, Robert, now that I've given our other shows a little bump, let's continue with the events in Ukraine.
Well, that's basically all I really wanted to say was how they all have the same card, which is very interesting, and Putin and all three of them really have similar approaches to governing, basically kill off all your rivals, take complete control. And they're super smart, really hard to outsmart these guys. They're all very smart.
I gave you my date of birth before we went to air.
Yeah.
Honestly, tell me what my date of birth tells you about me.
Okay, so I was mentioning this to you. You're a 7 of clubs, which is 7 is this. There's two spiritual numbers in the deck, which is the 7s and the 9s. So 7 sits right in the center of each suit. It's like halfway between the ace and the king.
Okay.
So that means they're like a bridge between the mundane world on one side and the spiritual realm on the other side. So a lot of 7 of clubs can be vessels for knowledge to come from, information to come from the spiritual side to the mundane world. You understand? Like Robin Williams, I told you, he was a 7 of clubs. He could just spout comedy like it was just coming out of him. He was a channel for comedy, really, all that stuff. And Bill Clinton was a 7 of clubs. There's a lot of them actually in Hollywood because 7 of clubs they also like to be well known. They like to achieve some measure of notoriety. It's a long story why, but I could show you, but don't have my stuff to show you. But basically, they like to get a lot of attention. So there's a lot of people in the 7 of clubs that are in Hollywood or in other kind of teaching professions where they can be in front of other people. So the downside of the 7 is that you go from being like your mind can be so like high on like this high realm, and then you come crashing down on the mundane. You can get very negative.
Yes, I can.
The 7 of clubs can be, they go back and forth from being like enlightened to being super down or super negative. I mean, Robin Williams, he went down, really went down. Okay, so that's that. Now you have another card, by the way. It's the Queen of Spades, and that card is a really good card because it's hardworking, it's very organized, and it also likes to take care of other people. You like to take. I'm a Queen of Diamonds, and queens, we like to take care of people. It's like a motherly kind of thing. It's a little bit of a motherly thing in the work that we do. Does that make sense?
It certainly does, because prior to getting into broadcasting full time, I was a policeman, and I took that job very seriously. I was there to serve and to protect.
Yeah. Good buddy of mine was a cop.
Just got a message from one of our listeners who's out there listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network and one of our many feeds. Her name is Shelley, and she would like me to see if you could give her a little card reading with her date of birth, which is November the 13th, 1950.
Okay. Does she have a particular question or just a general thing?
Just a general.
See, she's a 7 of clubs like you, but she's a Scorpio 7 of clubs. Very interesting. So her second cards are different than yours. She's a Jack of Diamonds and let's see, what's the Jack of Clubs, right? That's it looks to me like when I look at her, I'm looking at her cards for this particular year, and it looks to me like there's a lot of energy around the home. Hold on, let me see here. Let me make sure I got this correct. Yeah, there's a lot of energy around the home for the last year and this year. like finding a home, having a better. You have the same thing, by the way, because you guys are almost the same age. Didn't mean to give that away, but
No, it's okay.
the-
I'm 212. I told you that before the
oh,
show.
that's right. That's right. So she's got this 4 of hearts and 4 of spades. So I would think that that's being a big theme for her in her life. Now, this woman is, she has a lot more energy on the creative side than your birthday. I mean, even though yours is very creative too. Hers got 2 jacks as her other cards, and jacks are always creative and wanting to have fun. You know what I mean? They're like more fun loving, not as serious, even though she's got that 7 of clubs. So if she has any, if she had a question about a certain year or a relationship or something, I can help her with that. That's basically what I have to tell her.
Okay, and I'm going to take one more. Her name is Elaine, and she's listening to us on the Talkstar Radio Network, and she is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And her date of birth is June 11, 1956, and she would like to know about her career path. 1956, geez,
Well,
Elaine, if you're not retired yet, you should be.
Yeah, I mean, she's 66 years old, so she's a 6 of diamonds, and 6 of diamonds, their highest role in life is to be a vessel for higher values to come through them. Like I've known lots of 6 of diamonds women who they married a rich person and they use that money to help the poor, like Robin Hood kind of, but they're married, and
Right.
it's not that they don't love their husbands, but they just have this sense of a mission that they have to do in their life. And so I don't know what her specific question is right now in her life, but she's having a good year. I think she's having a good year. Maybe
that's
she's
great.
thinking about something new, like a new career or something, but just let her know that like her highest role would be in a situation where she's redistributing wealth in some manner. It could be lots of ways. It could be through a charity or whatever.
Is there any specific age that a person should get a reading? Like, for example, should children get a reading? Would this help them get a better grip on their potential and where they should actually look towards a job or a career? Or
Well, I can help anybody at any age understand their career path using astrology too, because astrology has a little more details about that. But there's general things about the cards. Like a 3 person would never be, or a 5 person, anybody who's a 3 card or a 5 card would never be happy in some kind of routine, boring work situation. They just couldn't stand it. They need variety, they need change, they need travel, things of that nature. So there are some basic things that the cards can tell you about that. And it could be any age. But one thing I love to do is to talk to parents about their relationship with their kids. That's amazing what you can find out and discover between them. They can understand their child better and understand how to be a better parent with them, knowing how their child's energy is and how it combines with theirs.
so what is the main difference between the system that you use and other or more traditional forms of reading? For example, the tarot deck.
So everybody thinks the tarot deck was the original deck, but it's absolutely not. It's just the opposite. This deck is the only deck that's mathematically connected to the Earth's calendar. It's the only deck. All the rest of them are basically built off of this deck with things added to this deck. And they have no mathematical connection to, so they're not mathematical systems. This is a completely mathematical system. It's not, there's nothing random about it. We don't shuffle them and lay them out randomly and try to interpret them, because every card in your whole life is already laid out for you for every month of your life, what's going to happen.
How did the 2 and some odd years of COVID affect your business, or were people still connecting with you? Were there more people, less people? Did the questions change, or can a card, for example, I'm 7 of clubs, if I do something in my life, will that number change?
No, the number will never change. You can transcend your own card, but that's rarely done. It requires becoming like completely and basically an acceptance of who you are. So you don't have to express it in any particular way. The card is a lifetime, just like the astrology chart, which is this imprint taken at the moment of your birth. it's a lifetime pattern that you live through during your life. And I mean, you can make changes. I mean, I've heard of people that are walk-ins and things like this. And I don't, maybe that's true. It could definitely be true, but I don't know. I don't have any experience in those areas. But
What if somebody is adopted, all right, and their true date of birth is not known?
I can't help them.
No way. Has that ever happened to you?
I have run into a few instances where certain foreign cultures, they don't record it. They have preferences of how they record the date of birth, and it's not always accurate. So like they'll just decide on a day for a particular reason that's connected to their culture over in the Asian cultures and so forth. So I've had a few people that were married to somebody that was from that culture, and they really didn't know what their birthday was, and we really couldn't do a reading for them.
So there are limitations, I guess.
And then there's one more limitation, which is December 31st, which is the Joker.
Oh,
And the Joker cannot be read by this system at all.
really? Well,
They
what
can
about
be any
leap year?
card.
What about leap year?
It all fits in. Leap year is a card. February 29th is actually a card in the nine of clubs. It's hard to explain it right now, but it all fits together. But Jokers like Anthony Hopkins, Val Kilmer, Ben Kingsley. I mean, Anthony Hopkins, this has got to be the best acting card there is. Like, I can never figure out how old Anthony Hopkins was. He always looked like an old when he was young. Yeah. Yeah. And then and Ben Kingsley when he did Gandhi. Oh, my God.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean,
that is one of my favorite movies.
yeah. I mean, Jokers, they can be any card in the deck they want at any moment, and they can just switch. So
My favorite line from that movie is, "A man must do what a man must do."
Yeah, I love that movie too. It was beautiful. It was great. Inspirational.
Listen, my friend, you and I have to take our break. Please
Okay.
stand by. And Exo Nation, if you're hearing music in the background, I thought with the reading and the space background that Robert has and reading the cards, I thought I'd play some nice music for you guys. After all, this is the Exo, and Craig and I, we like adding a little bit of artsy-fartsy stuff to the show, which goes along with me being a 7 of clubs, right?
Absolutely. Some creativity there.
Yes, sir. Robert Lee Camp is our special guest. Once again, Exo Nation, if you'd like to contact Robert for a one-on-one consultation, www.7, that's the number 7, thunders.com, and I'll be back after this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios where, oh, come on, you guys know that by now, St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Robert Lee Camp is our special guest, and he is joining us from his home in North Carolina. How did COVID affect you and your family? Robert?
I got it finally.
Really?
I was kind of like feeling left out, and then I finally got it. Like, why is everyone else getting it? I don't want to get. Anyway, I got it, and it was I was just so tired for about
Really?
3 weeks. I mean, and I was a lot of coughing and stuff, and it was great though because it woke me up to the fact that I needed to upgrade my diet and I needed to upgrade my physical condition by
Sure.
exercising and getting back into doing things, and it actually changed like a lot of the basic directions of my lifestyle in a positive way, and now I feel better than before I had COVID, actually. So, but my
Good to
business,
hear.
you asked about my business, it
Yeah.
did really good. I have the best year yet last year.
Well, good for you.
So
Glad to hear it.
maybe more people are looking for more answers when things get a little, uncertain like this. Yeah. The
Has there
uncertainty
ever been a
factor is-
time when somebody's contacted you and you're looking at the cards and you say, huh? Where it just blows you away?
There's been a few times, yeah. I mean, like there are cycles in the cards, and some of them are extremely good. Like they have the millionaire's card, for example, that you'll have twice in your life on a certain year, where a lot of money will come in really quickly. And there's cycles where your life goes through dramatic changes that we all have. Big decision-making years where you make a decision about which direction your life's going to go. So I'm really excited when I have a client, I see something significant coming up in their astrology or the cards, and I'm able to tell them ahead of time so they can take advantage of it. And as far as I know, they do take advantage of it, and they get back at me and say it was amazing and different things like that.
Can this science help you pick a better relationship?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I love it. Like every two cards in the deck have connections to each other. So basically every two birthdays have some kind of connection to each other. And this card system lays it out clearer, I think, than anything, but better than astrology, really. It's easier to learn, and it's much more concise and accurate. We have reports that we do on our website for people that just want to try it out. You can do a relationship report about you and your significant other, and you can it'll tell you everything about the two of you. It's amazing. So, when I meet a new couple, I always like to ask them their birthdays so I can see who the boss is in the relationship.
Well, I can tell you who the boss of my relationship is, and that's my wife.
And what's her month and day of birth? Do you mind sharing it? Or
No, she'd kill me if I did that.
oh, okay. Because if she was like an 8 of clubs, or if she was like a king of spades, then you definitely would be she would be the leader.
Yeah, no, she. I have found. You see, I found a secret that I'm willing to share with everybody right now. There are 2 words that will solve any relationship problem in the world. For a guy to say, "Yes, dear." That's it.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Over. Yeah, or as my dad would say, the 2 best words to save any relationship or to keep a relationship going is Jack Daniels.
My wife's a Pisces. She would appreciate that. Pisces like to drink. But
Jeez.
but you can peg people, and you can tell right off the bat, even before a couple get to know each other. If I have their birthdays, I can tell them how it's going to be.
Really?
I can tell them ahead of time if it's worth even pursuing or not. And I give a lot of clients advice based on that. And I had one client that was having me analyze everybody. He was a business kind of sort of a client, but he after he had me analyze like 20 or 30 women over a period of 5 years, he went off and got married to this one woman. And I said, his name was Thomas. I said, what? Why didn't you talk to me about her? And I told him what was going to happen. And 2 years later, it happened, and they were divorced.
Oh, heavens.
Because that was what was in the stars for him.
I would imagine that this scientific method would be very good for new parents in order to help them better understand their child and make their life and the child's life easier.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old, believe it or not. And the night he was born, we were having difficulty, and we had a choice between waiting and trying some other things to get a natural childbirth or to have a C-section. But waiting would have had his birthday be the following day. And I chose him to come in that night. So we had the C-section an hour later because I wanted him to be 4 of clubs and not a 3 of clubs, because that was much more compatible with me and my wife and better all around.
Here's a question from Candace in Longueuil, Quebec, who's listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network. She would like to know if pet owners could also use this to better understand their pet, their cat, their dog, or even their horse.
Well, I have a lot of students, and we have a Facebook page, a private page where people that are studying this all chit chat, and they swear by it. Like if you know your pet's birthday,
Right.
they swear by it. That it matches the cards, that descriptions that are in my books and everything. So our 2 dogs, we don't know their birthdays, so I can't really say about them, but I've heard that it does match up.
Is there any way to transcend or to use a business address to get a scientific reading on the success of the business, or if the business is going to fail?
Well, everything that has a birthday can be read, including a
Okay.
business. So like a business birthday,
The incorporation date.
incorporation date,
Yeah.
or if it's a small business, the day you go open up your doors for business, or the date you go live on the internet.
I see.
You can pick that day ahead of time. You can decide on what that day is going to be,
Right.
and pick a day that has really good financial fortune. There are some birthdays that are very financially fortunate. They just tend to be very. Money comes easily to them.
But that's really smart, because people can contact you, and if they're planning to open up, let's say, a wingnut store, and give you an approximate date, and you can actually guide them to a better date when to open that store.
I also tell couples when they should get married. Like I picked our wedding day, and it was on a Thursday, but it was the best day. And you can tell I've had direct experience of like watching a good day happen when the planets just line up well, when the moon and Venus and different planets are in good aspect to each other. I was in Hawaii once teaching a class, and I was there for 10 days, and the ocean was rough. You didn't even want to go swimming in it. It was like I was on the north shore of Kauai, and the waves were coming in. They just beat you up. But I knew that there was this beautiful moon-Venus connection coming in 2 days. And on that day, the water turned beautiful, and all the surfers just showed up. It was like, it's crazy. It's like there was no surfers, and all of a sudden there were surfers everywhere. Like they knew somehow, but it was all because the moon and Venus were in good aspect to each other.
Oh, when you're talking about Hawaii, you're talking about our second home. We've got a home on Maui, and love Hawaii. I find the people there are so different, so friendly, so open. What can't be done today? Well, there's always tomorrow. And it's just a great place to be.
Beautiful climate. I love Hawaii.
Gorgeous, yeah. In fact, on Maui, there are 7 different climates.
Yes.
So when you drive around the island, you go through 7 different zones. And
they got a rainforest, they got a desert, they got a
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I think Hawaii has that too, or something like that. And I love Hawaii.
Well, if I win the lottery, you and I are going there, buddy.
I'm ready. I've been there a few times, and I've always just felt like I came home. I don't know why. I just love it.
All right, now let's talk about the lottery for a second here, or even going to casinos. Can we use this method to, for example, if I was to call you up and say, "Hey, Robert, I'm thinking about going to the casino this coming Saturday, which is what, September 10th."
Okay, there are daily cards. You have personal daily cards that, and one of my best friends loves to go to the Cherokee Casino, which is about an hour drive from where we live here. And he consults his cards before he goes. And he's had pretty good success with it.
I would imagine it would work the same for the lottery, going to the store and buying your lottery ticket.
And buying stocks. We have a guy in our group who's really into analyzing stocks, their birthdays. He finds the birthday of the company, and he looks at their stocks, and he looks at the U.S. as a whole. He's really into that. I don't have an interest in that aspect myself, but there's people that are doing it for sure, and lotto too. I mean, whatever. There's good and bad days. I mean, you could have one of the best money days will be a 10 of diamonds a day. That's like a really good money card, or a 7 or an 8. These are all really good money cards, 7, 8, or 10 of diamonds. So if you had those cards in a day, yeah, I've done it too. I've gone out and played the lotto when I had good money cards, just because, why not? It's like $6 or something, who cares?
Stand by, my friend. We have to take our final break. And Exo Nation, if you would like to contact Robert, whether you're a stockbroker, whether you're a business person, or whether you're a couple in love and you'd like to know if the cards are compatible with each other, here's the website address, www.seventhunders.com. And the 7 is the numerical 7, thunders.com. And Robert and I will be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. To be accosted in her bed and abducted by aliens was the last thing Michelle expected. Yet the fateful morning of her destined death changed everything. Lord Lan Ramos, Alpha King of Vidar, the monstrous befanged alien looming over her bed, was her destined mate come to save her from certain death. He is a telepathic mute shifter. Can Michelle accept him and his animal? Once on Lan's home planet, Michelle becomes increasingly psychic, revealing her as the fabled Oracle of Vidar. As factions conspire to destroy them, will they overcome mounting threats? Will Michelle's growing gifts save them, or ultimately destroy her? Don't miss this sci-fi shifter romance with charismatic and engaging characters. Get your copy today, The Oracle of Vidar, available on Amazon or CahiraO'Donnell.com. That's CahiraO'Donnell.com. Welcome back, everyone. Robert Lee Camp is our guest this hour. www, that's 7thunders.com. First of all, Robert, thanks so much for coming on the show. Always a great pleasure talking to you. I was going through the information that you sent Craig, and one of the books that you wrote kind of piqued my interest. Exploring the Little Book of the Seven Thunders.
Yeah, so the Seven Thunders is mentioned in Revelations of the Bible. There's a passage where they said, and the seven thunders had uttered their voices, and I was about to write down what they wrote. And the angel said to me, write not what the seven thunders say, seal that up, because it will be prophesied again in the future for kings and so forth. So the seven thunders refers to the seven planets. And the little book that the angel could hold in their hand was the deck of cards. This is according to Olney Richmond who wrote the first book that revealed this system to the world in 1894.
Fascinating.
So we call it the Little Book of the Seven Thunders, and that's like, so then that book that I wrote that explains how it all works from the ground up, how you can take a deck of cards. Mm-hmm. And if you know how to do not the shuffle, but the way they're, it's called a quadration, basically. You can manifest this entire system from just a deck of cards. I've always had this fantasy of being in prison, and all I have is a deck of cards, and I can generate this entire system and sit there and do readings for the rest of my life, just having a deck of cards, knowing how to do it, how to arrange them.
Wasn't there a song from the 60s, I believe, called This Deck of Cards?
That's right. Yeah, The Deck of Cards. It was like a country western kind of a song. about, well, they had different versions, but it was around World War II, I think, about a soldier that was in jail because he didn't go to church or something,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and he said, I have the whole church here in my hand," and he speaks about, and he says he actually reveals some of the things I mentioned in the beginning, how the card matches the calendar and stuff.
Yeah.
In that song, it's very cool.
It would appear that this way that you read the cards is very simple.
In a way, it is. I mean, it's not that complicated. I tell everybody you can master it in a year, you know.
Really?
And I
Well,
mean,
what I
my
mean by
books, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, what I was going to say, Robert, is what I mean is that you can relate to the world around you using these cards, where tarot cards I find rather confusing.
Yeah, I was actually learning to do tarot before I discovered this system, and I never could get it. It was never accurate for me. I think because I always wanted it to be a certain way, and I don't know, but it never gave me good, accurate results. I discovered this. I completely let go of tarot and never went back, because this is something you can depend on. I mean, it's just right there. You know, it's telling you what's going on.
You were a guest with Maury Povich and Roseanne?
Yep. I was on their shows as well as I think I mentioned a couple others.
Let me see, Mary Lou Henner.
Mary Lou Henner was fun. She's a two of spades. She was very skeptical, and she was like, I just looked in your book, and I had a baby son last year, but I don't see him there anywhere. And I said, oh, well, what's his birthday? And she told me his birthday. I looked up his card, and that was like her long range card for the year. And she was like, it was right there, but she didn't know exactly how to look for it, you know. But she was like trying to be a real skeptic about it at all. You know?
How was Roseanne?
Well, I was like on a panel of people. I didn't get to do much there. I didn't think Roseanne was, you know, she wasn't a very nice person. Let's just put it.
Really, eh?
Yeah, she's kind of angry.
How about Maury Povich?
He was okay. He was good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they have a lot of people come on the show, and you might have like 30 seconds,
right,
you know, on the show. So, you know, I was grateful to do it. It was fun, you know, all that. I doubt anything came of it, as far as people knowing about my books. I had more success in the beginning doing radio shows, being a guest on talk shows like this back in the day, like 30 years ago, and advertising in that magazine. What was it called? Where
RTIR?
Something like that. But I had an ad, and it was a magazine that all the producers of talk shows would read to find new.
Oh, that was definitely the RTIR, Radio Television Interview.
That's it.
Review,
interview report. Yeah,
right.
Review. That's
report.
right. That's right. I got in on that, and that was great. I did like hundreds of shows.
Oh yeah, we used to get that. We used to get one every week, and you know, this was a great source of information for us and as producers, because while I was doing the X Zone radio show, I was also the station and the station's executive producer. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 talk shows to take care of.
Oh, to provide guests for.
Yeah, and the RTIR was one of the many great resources. And I was so sorry when they decided not to do it anymore. They just went online, and big difference between the print that I know as a producer, when I would get the RTIR guide in my hand, it was, you know, I'd spend time looking through it, and we'd archive the books, we'd cross-index them with something called an index card. And
back in the day.
Yeah, but I was really sad when they decided to drop it.
And they were great shows. Like, I would be on for anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour on these shows. Yeah. And after a while, they started calling me Mr. Destiny, because I would do readings. They would have me they would have me do back-to-back readings for their listeners, basically, you know. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. And we sold books, and we got started that way, really.
We're coming up to the point where I have to say so long, Robert. But what would you like to share? What message would you like to share with the X Zone Nation tonight?
If I would share one thing, I would say, like, no matter what your destiny is, it always has a good ending. It always has a happy ending. The roughest times in our life always end up being a blessing of some kind. We don't always see it for a while, but it always ends up being that way. That's it.
Robert, I want to thank you ever so much for coming on the show. I would love to have you back on. And
anytime.
All right. Pleasure. And please keep doing what you're doing, because the world needs somebody who can provide hope and to prove that the light at the end of the tunnel isn't an oncoming train. And I think you do that very well, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Rob, very much.
All right. So until next time we meet, take care of yourself, and
will do.
Keep doing that thing you do.
Okay.
And Exonation, if you'd like to contact Robert on a one-to-one basis, his website is the number 7thunders.com. That's 7thunders.com. Now, I'm going to be back on the other side of this break at the top of the hour when I talk to my good friend, the one and only Kevin Randall. We're going to be talking about cattle mutilations, UFO crashes, and, of course, we're going to talk to him about what's new with the investigation into the Roswell UFO crash. I'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues. Don't go away.